Okay, people are joining. Hello, everyone. I'm going to start by saying hello a few times so that people can join us. What a day. What a day. What a day. So excited that everybody is here with us on this incredible day where we're seeing hostages being released to their families and the guns falling silent in Gaza. I'm going to continue to say hello and also introduce myself. My name is Elisheva Goldberg. I'm the Deputy Vice President for Policy and Communications at the New Israel Fund. And we have a really beautiful and exciting webinar for everybody today. I'm so glad that you could join us. So I'm just going to get started with a quick little introduction, and then by quick little, I mean a slightly extended introduction, because I think that on a day like today, we all need to take the collective inhale and the collective exhale that we've all been waiting for together. And so as I see the numbers rising, I'm just going to sort of start to tell us what happened, what is happening now. So again, one more time, I'm Elisheva Goldberg. I'm the Deputy Vice President for Policy and Communications at the New Israel Fund. And today is an astounding day. We're seeing the hostages reunited with their families, and it feels like a stone that has been in our collective stomachs is dissipating, is evaporating, is becoming nothing, because so much is being let go today. The feeling of relief, of joy for the families on all sides, actually, of this conflict, who have given everything and fought so hard to see this come to an end. And for the Israeli families who have, stood so strong, waiting and demanding and praying for their loved ones to come home. It is a truly astonishing day, and I'm so, so happy to be with you all and with Aziz Abusara and Maoz and Inon for this webinar. So I'm just going to also name the time that we're in, which is that this is the day before Simchat Torah on the Jewish calendar. This is almost exactly 2 full years since October 7th, 2023. And that fact, that on October 7th, 2023, there was this attack by Hamas, hostages were taken, and now 2 years later they are being returned. It is incredible. And the fighting is, for now, please God, for a long time, it is over. So today of all days, we get to hear and be together with some of the most beautiful and hopeful people, and also realistic and honest people that the peace movement in Israel has to offer. And that is not a small thing. It is big. And I'm really, really just as happy to be here with you as I am to be with them. So I'll introduce myself one more time, and I'll just say 4 things that I think we know, because there's so much we don't know, but there are 4 things that I think we know. So my name is Elisheva Goldberg, Deputy VP for Communications and Policy. So here are my 4 things that I think, know. We know that this war is over. The ceasefire has begun, and Israeli troops have pulled back to defensive positions. And so from Tel Aviv to Gaza City, people are celebrating in the streets, and within good reason, because we can all take this breath, we can all cry and hug our friends and family and be grateful that this stage 1 of this deal has actually happened. I think that there were many of us, including myself, who were skeptical that this, even though it felt like it was coming, and everyone felt like it was coming, would actually happen, but it has happened, and it is beautiful to see. Number 2 thing that I think we know, all of the remaining living hostages have, as we speak, or very recently, been reunited with their families. Einav Zangauker, the woman who's become the face of the movement to bring the hostages home, the woman who the New Israel Fund gave its Truth to Power Prize a year ago, is now able to hold her son Matan in her arms, and she can hug him and hug him and hug him. And today we are with her, and we are with all of the families, especially as all of the families who are represented by the Hostage Families Forum. And we're so proud to have supported these incredible people since day one. And we're just in that joy, and in that joy of all the families and everybody who's celebrating today. Number 3, this moment is a powerful reminder that civil society has the power to move mountains. For 2 years, hundreds of thousands of Israelis have protested against this war, against the government, for a ceasefire and for a hostage deal. They were in the streets, they were in the media, they were across the world, and the same civil society that has supported them and been with them and has been them has been preparing for this moment as well, both imagining what a political reality could look like and building the shared future between Jews and Palestinians that we're going to hear about today. And our partners on the ground stand ready to keep fighting for democracy, equality, justice, and all of the things that we stand for here at NIF. Number 4, and with this I will end, we also know that this war has brought so many casualties, so many innocent people in Israel, and so many innocent people in Gaza. Lives have been shattered by this war, and dreams have been destroyed. Thomas Friedman called it the worst war because it was led by the most dishonest and untrustworthy elements of each side's society. And so, yes, we are so very happy that it's coming to an end, but we know that there's so much that is needed to build and go forward, and that so much pain remains for everyone. And as always at NIF, we look beyond the politics and the headlines to the people, the activists, to the Aziz Abu Sara and to the Maoz Inon, and here we are about to talk to them. And so I want to just name that as I said that, that there's so much pain. Maoz and Aziz really understand that kind of pain. They are both people who were forged by themselves and together through the pain of loss and the pain that has given way to hope. And so finally, without further ado, I'm going to introduce them. Aziz Abu Sara is a peace builder, entrepreneur, and an educator from Jerusalem. After losing his brother in the conflict, he dedicated his life to reconciliation and cross-cultural understanding. He co-founded the dual narrative tour company Mejdi, which were led by both Israeli and Palestinian guides, and he has become one of the most powerful voices advocating for shared humanity across divides. Maoz Inon is an Israeli social entrepreneur and a peace activist who lost both his parents in the October 7th attacks on Netiv HaSara. And despite this unimaginable loss, he has become also a leading voice for peace. And he has been speaking around the world about forgiveness, partnership, and the urgent need to end the cycle of revenge. So, besides being both active in many different peace initiatives, including with the NIF grantee It's Time, which we'll get to a little bit later, they're both co-authors of a book called The Future is Peace, which is forthcoming in 2026. So keep an eye out for that. So I want to invite Maoz and Aziz finally to have a conversation with me. The first question is, guys, gentlemen, peacemakers, how are we feeling today? What have you been feeling over the past couple of days? Because it's, especially in this moment, we're celebrating, but you guys have also experienced such profound loss. So what does that combination of emotions feel like? What's it like to be you today? I'll start with Maoz and we'll go to Aziz, and maybe next time we'll switch.
My tears running down my face to my smile. That's I keep crying and smiling, and it started when the announcement of the deal. I think it was like just a few days ago, 4 or 5 days ago. I woke up in the morning, learning and reading about the deal, and I start crying. And that's the emotion I'm going through, and at the same time, smiling and crying. And like you said, Elisheva, before, this is exactly the work we've been doing in the last 2 years. So it's a great achievement and very rewarding that the sounds of war has ended, and the hostages and prisoner deal is being implemented as we speak now. And our work as peacemakers, as civil society, has only started. And we also, Aziz and I, have been doing this talk for nearly 2 years. Until 2 weeks ago, we were saying every time we would open and say that we are creating hope from a lower ground, that the abyss we've been falling into is just going deeper and deeper. And I think today, Aziz, I hope you will agree with me, we can say we hit the rock bottom, and from here it's time to rise as peace movement, as civil society, as Israelis, as Palestinian, as humanity. It's time to rise now, and a lot of work is still ahead of us. but we are ready for it. We're definitely ready for it.
Thank you, Maoz. Aziz, what's it like for
Um,
you right
I'll
now?
yeah, I'll start by saying I agree that there is much more, as Mao said, to be done, and not to think this is it. I think Palestinians, though, this see this day a little differently. While there is a lot of joy, people are being released from prison. By the way, most of the people being released, thousands, have not even been charged with anything. They were taken specifically to be used in a hostage deal. So there's a lot of joy of that. The whole stopping of the bombardment, there's a lot of joy of it. I have friends, Israeli friends, who had family members who are hostage, so very happy to see them rejoicing for maybe the first time in the last 2 years. So all of this is really incredible. I think it's still a very small step in the right direction and a very small step that needs so much more work. And my worry is people feeling we've done it. And I see all these posts online is like, we've done it. I'm like, no, no, we haven't done it. We're not even back to October 6th reality. It's a lot worse. There's so much more. One, for most Palestinians, thousands of people are still in prison, many of whom have never been charged even with anything. So when people say it's all done and all hostages are freed, it's very hard for Palestinians because that's not true. In our case, not true for people I know. And then even as people going back to their homes in Gaza, they are going to destroyed homes. They don't even have a place to sleep. There's all these gangs that have been armed in the last 2 years that have been going around and murdering people just yesterday and today. So the joy is mixed with a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear at the same time. I'll also just add one more thing into the introduction. One of the things Maoz and I have done in the last 2 years is found an organization together, Interact, which that has been our focus in Interact is really how do we create hope and how do we persist in this work and not accept half a deal, a quarter a deal, because in reality, the failure of every previous agreement was around this breaking into many segments, and usually one or two are done, and then after that, it's forgotten and we never continue. And the second thing, which I think a lot of the agreements that have been done in the past really were not built on values of dignity, equality, and I worry that's where some are going to try to take this ceasefire agreement and not really push toward a peace deal. So our work is still is cut for us, and we have so much more to do. And I don't feel there's a time to rest yet.
No one's resting, Aziz. We're all taking a moment to breathe, and then we will tomorrow we organize.
Yeah.
Yes. But the second question I have for both of you is to take us a little bit like one step back into your story. You know, I mentioned in the introduction that you've both lived through tremendous loss, and yet you chose to turn your grief into action. And so I want you to tell all the people here how you made that choice, because I know that many people don't make that choice, and it is a choice. And so I am very, you know, I want to understand how you arrived into that place.
Yes, so again, I can start with this question too. I was born and raised in Israel. And I was born in a kibbutz about a mile away from Gaza, kibbutz Niram. My father was also raised in this kibbutz, and that's where my three sisters, my young brother, and myself lived till I was about 14 years old. Then we moved to Netiv Asara. It's the nearest Israeli community to the border of Gaza. Um, and I think it was around the age of 30, after together with my wife, we already traveled twice around the world, been to New Zealand, Asia, Australia, and South America, that at the age of 30, we realized that we know so much about indigenous communities and native people all around the world, but we had not even one single Palestinian friend. At the age of 30, we didn't know the difference between Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, or Ramadan. We didn't know where Jesus was born, where he's buried, and never heard about the Annunciation. So far away in South America, in Ecuador, we realized that for 30 years we were living with inside walls, physical and mental walls of ignorance. And we all know that when there is ignorance, there is fear. And when there is fear, there is hate. And when there is hate, we do horrible things to each other. So we choose to open gates within those walls and use tourism as a tool to open those gates and create a shared vision and shared life between Jews and Arabs within Israel. And back in 2005, my wife and I opened a guest house in the old city of Nazareth, the largest Palestinian city within Israel, which was the first guest house ever in the old city, who was the symbol or the first step in the Renaissance the entire old city was going through afterwards, with many more hostels, guest house, galleries, coffee shop that were opened afterwards. And in 20 years in Nazareth, I realized that the first step in reaching a shared society is knowing the other side narrative, that we must know the other side pain, suffering, loss, and also dreams and aspiration. That if we wall between us and the other, if we erase the other side narrative, if we silence it, we're going to face resistance. And when there is resistance, no one can tell if it's going to be non-violence resistance, like I'm sure many of you, and definitely the civil society, we are participating sometimes on a daily basis, or it's going to be a violent resistance. So that was basically what I was preaching to my guests and groups I was leading through the old city of Nazareth. And when October 7th happened, and I was actually in the same room I'm speaking with you, I'm speaking from now, in the last 20 years, I've been living in Binyamina with my family. And that's where I made my last call with my father. It's about 7:30 in the morning. And afterwards, I was watching in social media how the Hamas is intruding Israeli communities, and the wall is being falling. And I tried to call him a few minutes after, and there was no answer. And we started the Shiva first thing Sunday morning, just after getting the tragic news in Saturday afternoon. And it was the second day of the Shiva that my young brother Magen asked the family to agree and then amplify and share a universal message that we are rejecting revenge, that we don't want to revenge the deaths of our parents, that by choosing revenge, we are not going to bring them back to life, and we are only going to escalate the cycle of bloodshed, hate, fear that we've been trapped within for a century. The Israelis and Palestinians, we've been trapped within this cycle for a century, and my young brother encouraged us, the siblings of Bila and Yacobi, that were just killed 2 days before, to create a new path that will lead first us, the family, and then everyone who want to join us, the path to peace and reconciliation. And the day after, I received a message from Aziz. Even though we met only once, maybe a decade ago, maybe even more, and we were friends only on Facebook, but I received a message of support, of condolences, and that Aziz is there with me and with my family in our hardest time ever. And since then, we've been working closely, if it's co-founding Interact and co-authoring the book, The Future is Peace. And what I'm also saying publicly now is that, yes, I lost my parents, but I want a brother. I want a brother, and it's not just me, it's all our family. One of these is part of our family. And I can never be more thankful and gratitude to no one in the world. So I love you, Aziz.
Thank you. Thank you, Maoz. I love you too. And you always make it hard for me then to continue. Um, The amazing part is Maoz and I life are quite parallel in some ways. Both of us chose tourism as a way of peace building. Maoz through the Abraham hostels and starting a guest house in Nazareth, and I did through Majdi Tours and the dual narrative trips and taking people on trips that explore the different narratives of the land and meeting Israelis and Palestinians and seeing people as equal and learn about civil society. But I think for me, the reason probably I reached to Maoz is what answers your question. It's more about um, watching how little empathy there is today and realizing how important it is to reach out in times when people are in despair and in times when people suffer and people are in pain and it doesn't happen enough. Um, and then right after October 7th, I felt it was important to do that. And I did it because growing up, that hasn't happened to me when my brother was killed when I was 10 years old and he died due to torture in Israeli prison. I didn't know any Israeli, I didn't know any Jewish person except the soldiers and the settlers, and neither of those were good relationships, needless to say. So I think I learned the importance of empathy through that. And my first really human interaction with an Israeli person was when I was 18 years old, when I went to learn Hebrew in an ulpan. And my Israeli teacher was just the kindest person, and it was very different than any interaction I've had with any Israeli before. And that interaction has kind of started setting me up on this path of realizing that those divisions are manufactured decisions based on ethnicity and religion and nationality, and realizing that really where we should be or what defines who we are is not those lines. And I don't care if you're Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Israeli, Palestinian. To me, what matters, where are you regarding important values of liberation, of equality, of justice, of recognition, of peace building? And if we stand on those issues and the same side, then we are in this struggle together. And that's why Maoz and I see each other as family, as brothers. His family is mine and my family is his, and that's how we connected very quickly. I mean, our friendship is not that old. It's 2 years old, but I think because it was forged in pain and in loss and in blood, and because it's based on those values, that it's something that can last. If it's only based on political allegiance, I don't think those relationships do last as well, and they get challenged. And we've seen that happen definitely in the last 2 years. So that's what brings us together is the values we believe in, and that's what makes us continue on this path and can celebrate and can cry at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think that that's the realignment that we at the New Israel Fund have been working towards, and what it means to build a shared future, right? What do we mean by shared? We mean we're sharing those values. We mean that we all are working towards the same, ultimate goal, which is that everyone should be equal, everyone should have dignity, everyone should have the same, right? We are all one humanity. And I think that that's what you're saying your friendship is forged in. And I think that that is beautiful, and very, very special. And thank you both for sharing those stories. I know that going back to the emotional times of loss is not easy. And I want to move us from the past to the future for a moment, because even in this wartime, even in the last 2 years, and in some part because of your efforts, and in some part because of lots and lots of people's efforts, we have seen a resurgence of what you might call a peace movement, where, for many years in Israel, and I think in Palestine and in Palestinian discourse, it was almost laughable to talk about the word peace. I think that there has been a reigniting of that concept. And I'm curious, people from all over both Israeli and Palestinian society are coming together to demand this, and it's inspiring. And NIF has funded the It's Time movement. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that and about your efforts sort of towards the future, using your friendship, but also your astonishing political imaginations.
Yeah. So maybe before we move to the practical, which is important, but I think I would like to also share the three fundamental lessons I learned after October 7th, and
Please.
from here to take it to the practical work we are doing on the ground. The first lesson is that hope is not something we can lose. It's not something we can find. It's not something someone else will bring us. Hope is an action. Hope is an action we are creating together by envisioning a better future and acting in order to make it into a reality. And this is exactly, Elisheva, this is exactly the work the New Israel Fund is doing for decades now. You are doing it for decades. And for me, it's the most straightforward and fundamental partnership that I realized I must create after October 7th with New Israel Fund. And I think I reached out, it was Mickey and Tami Akira and many others. What are we doing now? Because you have the capacity to create hope in a bigger scale. So this is the first lesson. The second lesson is that even today, and I totally align with what Aziz said, because I also have, through Aziz and other Palestinians, I have so many friends in Gaza nowadays, in the West Bank. And the difference between the Israeli and Palestinian story is today, 2 years after October 7th, is as far away than ever. But we meet in the future. The Israelis and Palestinians are meeting the future because all conflicts end in the end. All conflict. It doesn't matter if it's day-long conflicts, weeks, months, years, decades, or centuries. All conflict ends in the end, and so will the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And when 2 weeks ago we were speaking at New York Law School, and we said that every day that goes by, it's a day that we are getting closer to peace, because most like breakthrough in peace process could not be imagined 2 weeks before they happened. And we said it exactly 2 weeks ago in New York. And this is exactly what we are
You
experiencing
said it,
now.
wait, just to be clear, Maoz, you said that most conflicts cannot be imagined, that they will end 2 weeks before they end 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
And
yes.
then,
This is the lesson also. And Aziz, and he was speaking about his work. Aziz, in the last 2 years, Aziz been visiting so many conflict areas throughout the world: Vietnam, Rwanda, South Africa, Ireland, and many others. And this is what I learned. This is like the relationship between Aziz and myself. We also teach each other, and we grow and evolve together. So this is what I learned from Aziz. And many times after our talks, we don't remember what Aziz said and what I said. So it was Aziz or me definitely say that just 2 weeks ago in New York. So the Israelis and Palestinians are meeting in the future. That's the second lesson. And the most difficult lesson was the lesson of forgiveness. And that I learned from Aziz, that by choosing forgiveness to those who killed his brother, he wasn't doing it because he knew the other side is asking for any regrets or forgiveness or listening or any care in any way for Aziz, but Aziz chose forgiveness in order to save himself from the destiny those who killed his brother chose for him. And by choosing forgiveness, we are freeing ourselves from slavery. And this is exactly the choice. And like you said in the beginning, it's a choice we can make. So I choose forgiveness. I choose to forgive Hamas for what they have done in October 7th, and I choose to forgive the Israeli government for not standing to the promise to secure and safeguard my parents. And after I was able to forgive, I could breathe again. I could just breathe again.
that's not a small thing to choose forgiveness. And so before maybe we go into the future, I'm Aziz, like, you said you talked about your teacher and how that interaction was new, but how did you you choose that, and then help Maoz understand that decision for you?
Yeah, I think we both, like I said, we both kind of gone always through this parallel. So Maoz, I could say exactly the same words he just he just said. Uh, right when I was in that Hebrew class, I felt very much that for the last 8 years, I was being a slave to the person who murdered my brother, and it's it's realizing that you didn't have your own choices, that you didn't have your own ability to choose which direction you go. I was reacting only to what that person has done, and understanding that makes forgiveness a little easier because you don't forgive someone because they deserve it. You forgive them because you chose to do it. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions about forgiveness is that it means you think the action of that person were okay. But actually what it does, it free you from being controlled from that person. So that's how I ended up in this path for the last more than 25 years. And it changes your perception. It doesn't make, like you saw Maoz crying just 5 minutes ago, it doesn't make pain go away. It doesn't make you even less angry, in my opinion. What it does, it changes how you respond to it. And you respond to it with actions that would bring peace and would bring equality and would bring dignity to people instead of actions that would bring more death and more destruction. And look, people have a choice at the end of the day of how they want to respond to it. You can respond to a disaster in your family, to a loss, to a killing, to a murder, like what happened to Maoz's parents. You can respond to it, and some people we know have, with wanting other people to suffer. The thing with that, you will never feel fulfilled. Nothing you can do to somebody else will ever take away the pain of your loss. Nothing you can do will make you whole again. It's the opposite. The more you push for death and destruction, the emptier you become, and you feel you want to feed this open pit, a monster in some ways, and it never gets fed, and you become worse and worse, and you want worse and worse for the others. And so the two of us realize this is not a future we want first for ourselves, because it's even less about the other. It's first for yourself, for your family, for the people around you, and then it's also for the people who you might call an enemy or the other. It's just that it only leads to more pain and more people joining in becoming bereaved families, more people joining into losing everything they have. And unfortunately, the two of us know way, way too many people who have gone through this, and people who are going through it right now.
Yeah. And this perspective is really, I think there's like a naturalness or an instinct that feels like, that hole that you're talking about will never be full. And so what do you do to fill it, right? I think a lot of people would like to see, revenge makes sense in that I'm gonna react in this way that is attacking, is lashing out, is angry. But when you get to control your own reactions, as you're saying, I mean, I think it is to say the least, a healthier and a more productive and a forward-looking response that will eventually lead to a better outcome for everyone. And it's amazing that this is the place that both of you have come to. And we really, I do think this moves us into like the next, what is next? How do more people come into your movement? How do more people join into this vision of what peace could look like, what shared futures could look like? And so tell us a little bit about the movements, really. It's not one. And I think that that's also important.
Mm-hmm.
There's never going to be one thing that makes this happen. It's going to be a collection of different attempts, and all together we're gonna push things forward. So tell us a little bit about It's Time. Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to and where we go from here.
Okay. Aziz, you want
Maoz,
to
you can
start
talk
or
about
okay?
you can talk
Yeah.
about It's Time, or I can talk about Interact, and then you can talk about It's Time. That's
Okay. So
also.
okay.
I do wanna though start by saying one of uh, our newly found quotes that I can't seem to trace where it goes to, but I'll paraphrase it. It says, "The impossible is something we have not desired enough yet. And it's a powerful quote because it says nothing is impossible. It's just we have to work hard enough and to want it hard enough. And so one day we'll get there. And we've been for years saying it's not about when it will happen or if it will happen. It's about how many people have to unfortunately die or suffer before it happens. So we come from that perspective. And so that's one. The second, when Maoz and I started planning for the next few years, we said, when do we think we can have an agreement, a full conflict resolution, an end of the occupation, an end to conflict, an end to all hostilities? And we decided 5 years is the right time. And there's a reason why. There are many examples from history where after a terrible disaster, it takes about 5 years to reach an agreement. That happened after the war in 1973, for example. So that's our guiding principle. But to get there, you must build a lot of coalitions. And one of our diagnoses that we felt is needs to change in the peace movement is we need more coalitions. We need a lot more work together. That is true in Israel and Palestine. That is true in the United States. That is true in Europe. That's true everywhere. We need to come together and start support each other, help each other much more, and not see it as my turf versus your turf. And this week I've had so many phone calls with different organizations, individuals in the US who are Jewish Palestinian groups and Jewish Muslim groups. And it's exciting how there's much more openness to that than I think we had ever before. So that's, I think, one of the positive things that are going on at this moment. Like if Maoz and I are working in speaking campuses, and we do a lot, so then we found some young guys who are starting campus work in different campuses, and now we coordinate with them and we talk to them about how they can connect with the people we meet, because the two of us don't have the capacity to work on campuses. So that just gives you a small example. We understood how important it is to strengthen both the Palestinian and the Israeli coalitions independently. We reopened, for example, Fawzi Azar guest house in Nazareth, but not as a guest house, but rather as a peace center, as a cultural hub center. And we had our soft opening. We didn't have the full opening yet. We had our soft opening on September 21st, where 300 people more or less came and marched with us through the old city, a place that has been in the last 2 years literally dead. And we brought hundreds of people in, and you can see joy on the streets. But not only Israeli Jews, I can tell you, I brought my family, for example, brought some friends, I brought some Palestinians from East Jerusalem, and I noticed that almost every Palestinian we brought from East Jerusalem has never been to Nazareth before. And so those are the kind of coalitions that need to be done between Palestinians in the West Bank, Palestinians in Gaza, Palestinians in Israel. There is a lot of connectivity and work that needs to happen there. We're looking forward to start doing cultural stuff in Fawzi Azar, to start a dual narrative center there. We're working on so many things that will happen. And then to amplify the voices of peacemakers, not only Maoz and I, but also other peacemakers. Make sure one of the fun projects, 2 projects we're working on, one is an amplifier of kind of speakers bureau for Palestinian Israeli peacemakers, and the other is kind of an impact hub or what's the word we use, Maoz? I totally forgot it.
Speaker bureau?
No, the other
Speaker
one.
bureau?
It's the incubator, an incubator of peace building. And we're working with other organizations who are also doing similar thing and partnering with, and other organizations coming saying, we want this person to be part of your incubator. So it all eventually honestly leads to the concept of learning how to work better together and realizing this is not an it's time thing. This is not an interactive thing. This is not an NIF thing. This is all of us figuring out where we can work together and maybe we're not, and helping and supporting each other in this, even when we sometimes have a strong disagreements, which will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all in this together.
Yes, exactly. And so I will thank you, Aziz. I will frame it also with a 5-step plan that we can take in order to make our dream into a reality. Also because Aziz and I, I speak for myself. I'm getting very emotional many times, as you can see, and I need to simplify my framing and messaging. Otherwise, also in front of big audience like here, we have 255 people. We love you. We need to simplify things. So we have a five-step approach how to make our dream into a reality. First, we have a dream. We dream of a lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians, that all 14 million people living in Gaza, in Israel, in the West Bank, will live their life in equality, in dignity. So we have a huge dream. Then we agree on our shared values and common ground. We spoke about it already, but I will name them again because it's important to keep reminding ourselves what our values are: equality and dignity, shared acknowledgement and recognition, reconciliation and healing, security and safety. And now we can move to the third step, which is building a coalition, because no one can fulfill big dreams on his own. So we work day and night, like as it just described, to encourage and invite others, individual organization in Palestine, in Israel, and around the world to join our coalition. The first step is to build a roadmap, because if we want to have a roadmap to take us to peace by 2030, we're not going to make it. We're not going to get there. So we must have a roadmap. And the fifth is to execute, to implement, to start working and following the roadmap. And the roadmap is also very simple. Only 5 chapters. Chapter number 1 is to dream. And in the last 2 years, Aziz and I met, from the late Pope Francis to the new Pope Leo, spiritual leader, faith leader, policymakers. We met so many people, and we learned that the most important field and the place where we can change humanity is the field of dream. So we must start dreaming again, which as a movement, as a coalition, we stopped for too long. And I'm saying about myself, but I'm saying about everyone. We must dream again. And the second is to amplify our dream, like Aziz shared, and like what a New Israel Fund is doing, and like what we are doing now. We are amplifying our dream. And if you ask yourself, what can we do? Not what Aziz, Maoz, or New Israel Fund, what can you, each one of you, can do to promote peace? Amplify the dream of peace. Speak to your family, speak in your working place, speak in your communities, speak to everyone, share it on social media, share it with everyone that yes, you have a dream and you are very proud, a dream of a lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians. It's enough that enough of us will dream about it, it's going to happen. So that was the second chapter. The third is to legitimize our dream. War has never brought security. War has never defended, and bombs never bring quiet. It's only through peace, reconciliation, and equality that we can achieve our security and safety. And so we must legitimize it. The first is change policy. We must invest in tools of construction. We must invest in shared life initiative. Again, so if Elisheva describing you what New Israel Fund is doing, please forgive me. Okay,
We're on the same page here, Maoz.
okay, so
Shared Life Initiative is basically everything.
Exactly. We need to invest more and more in shared life initiatives. And the fifth chapter, and I think it's happening now. It's actually happening now to create the political will to make peace. And this is what's happening now, if I'm not wrong, and if in Sharm el-Sheikh, just as we speak now, more than 20 world leaders, including Muslim and Arab leaders, European leaders, and President Trump, are meeting together to create a political solution for a century-long conflict. And this is how conflicts are being solved. So I do believe it can be a historical moment, and we as civil society must ensure that it will be based on our values. Because if those values won't be implemented, we achieve nothing.
Yeah. This is a lot, what can we do? It's be proud and believe in peace. So I think that by itself is actually not small, because a lot of people, like I said earlier, have a lot of cynicism around this possibility. And so your encouragement, Maoz, I think is actually a significant one, which is, be loud and proud about wanting what we want, about the values that we stand for, about those things. And then, take action, because that's, as you say, hope is action. And you put it into something out there into the world, and we all move forward together. Tell us, just, I know we missed this for a second, but can one of you actually
It's
just
Time Coalition. I want to speak about It's Time Coalition. That's my t-shirt today. Okay. So It's Time Coalition was conceived only a few months after the war. I think it was a meeting like Tami Akira from Shatil, an organizer of the New Israel Fund, myself, and I don't remember who was else in this talk. And we said we must create a coalition. We must work together. And then we have done the biggest peace summit to the day in Chal Menorah in Tel Aviv. It was July 2024. And I said we need to do it in a football stadium. But I said, okay, no, let's do it in a basketball stadium. And we filled it. And we filled it. It was amazing. And I think everyone that attended this gathering said it was the first time he realized that he's not alone. We are not alone. There are many like us. So that was the first action of It's Time Coalition. And then a few months after, and again, during the war, during the bloodshed, during all the rest of the thing we were doing a week-long peace journey through Israelis and Palestinian communities within Israel. And then in May 2025, we have done the first People Peace Summit. I think it was 2 days event in Jerusalem. I think it was the largest peace event in Israel for 3 decades, at least, which was an amazing event. Amazing event. Aziz and myself had the privilege and honor to be among the keynote speaker of the summit. And now we are. And so more than 60 organizations are part of the coalition, civil society organization, Israelis and Palestinians, and we meet once a week. We have a steering committee that meets once a week. We share knowledge, we share resources, and we share, and of course, we share our values. That's the most important thing, maybe. And we are now building the coming year. What will be the action that It's Time Coalition will do in the year to come? And I'm not sure if we already announced about it or not, but I will do it now, and I hope no one gonna be mad at me. But please mark in your calendars the second People Peace Summit. Take a moment and put it in your calendars. We want you here in the region. It will take place in Jerusalem on May 7th. 2026, the second People Peace Summit. And while to the first one, we had videos from world leaders like Macron, like High Representative Kallas, and Mahmoud Abbas. Last week, there was a delegation of It's Time Coalition to meet Palestinian leaders of the PA, and we invited them to come physically to the second People Peace Summit. So I hope many of you will attend this very important summit and event.
That's wonderful. That's exciting. Like you said, I think the movement that is growing, it's our job to help grow. And so, we really stand 100% behind your efforts. And thank you so very much. I do want to allow a couple of moments for questions from the audience. If there are any, and I wonder, we have
Been a few. Can I answer one?
Oh, absolutely, Aziz. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've read some. Somebody asked about if similar conversations happened with Palestinians or Muslim Americans or someone. So
you're taking a question, just to be clear for everyone. You're taking a question from the chat that was asked, and you're going to answer that now.
Yes. Is that
good? Yes, amazing. Go ahead.
I can moderate myself. I'm sorry.
Awesome. No, you guys are pros. Go ahead. Yes, please.
And the answer is absolutely yes. Maoz and I have been to mosques, for example, in the States. So we've had this conversation with Muslim Americans. We've worked with Muslim foundations, with Muslim groups. So that's one. And I think there's, and I'm not sure why, but activities that happen, like in Area C, for example, there are tons of Israeli and Palestinian stuff that happen. I mean, there was the screening of Northern Land happened in Msafir Yatta, where tons of Israelis and Palestinians attended it
1
together.
second, Aziz, I'm going to tell everybody what that was. No Other Land was the Oscar-winning film by Palestinians who live in the South Hebron Hills in Area C of the West Bank, where, Area C is the area where both all Palestinians in the West Bank live, but it's not true. Well, all Palestinians under full Israeli control live, and all the settlements are. So it's like the point of conflict, and where everyone can actually be, but
It's the
also
only place legally that Israelis and Palestinians can meet without permits, which complicates a lot of things. So things like this happen. With that being said, I think we can't ignore power dynamics and realities on the ground and how difficult it is for meetings like this to happen on the Palestinian side in comparison to the Israeli sides. But that's not to say it doesn't happen. It definitely does. It doesn't get as publicized. People don't hear about it, and I think we need to do probably a better job on making people aware of these kind of meetings. But it definitely happened despite so many challenges.
yeah. Thank you so much, Aziz. That answers that question. Maoz, I don't know. Can you moderate yourself as well? Is there a
I
question?
know I'm not as talented as this.
I can ask Maoz a question if you
Okay, you can ask.
want.
Yeah, you can.
I read
Aziz
all
can
the
ask.
questions, that's why.
Go
Aziz
ahead.
is way, way more talented than me. That's
Nah.
was proven again.
Maoz, this may be a harder question, but we'll see if you can answer it. I'm going to pick you a very hard question. Somebody asked an example of a disagreement you and I had, and how did we deal with it? Can you think of something?
Actually, I think it's not the first time we've been asked this question, and I think I had no answer the first. Ah, yes, we the as I see
We
Aziz
do have
laughing.
a disagreement, not
Music,
political.
music. Okay, we can like music as what Aziz like to listen to. For me, it's not music. It's called country something, and I like much like African beat and yeah, and Middle Eastern and rock and for me, country is not music, so forgive
Yeah,
me.
that's one. I'll give maybe one more, a bit more serious. When we came together to form Interact, we we start talking about our visions, and we weren't necessarily fully aligned in the beginning. So what we did, we took a few days and we spent a few days together and we talked and talked and we compromised. Not everything I wanted was there, not everything Maoz wanted was there, but we came up with a compromise that we both felt good about. And so I can talk about the stuff Maoz wanted to be in as if it's mine, and he can talk about the stuff that I wanted to be in as if it's his. But it took us 2, 3 days of sitting every day for about 12 hours and talking and debating, not fighting, but trying to understand why and how and what makes this make sense. And so whatever we build had to be built in something we both believe. So I think time, listening, understanding that we both had the best intention, and realizing you can never get everything you want in. Not every idea. Both of us are visionaries, and so we have many ideas, and not every idea we have can become reality. So you have to give up some of your, good ideas or bad ideas at some point.
Yeah, if I can add to that, in order to write our shared book, we spent 6 or 7 days together, exploring the land, exploring the history, exploring theological events, but mostly exploring our relationship, and each one explored himself. And it was so powerful, and we learned in 6 days, I think, like I learned in few years. It's like a few years achievement. And now we are able to position ourselves in each other shoes or perspective without even need to think about it. So because I know his family, I know where he's come from, I know his pain, I know funny incidents, and I know very tragic event that happened to Aziz and to its people. So the level of recognition and acknowledgement between us is something, again, I'm not sure if I ever experienced with any other human being. And this is what allowing us to overcome many misunderstanding or conflicts.
So
By the
even if,
way, Maoz and I, because somebody asked, often speak English to each other. And there is a reason for that, is language, even though I speak fluent Hebrew, Maoz is learning Arabic, but there is power in language and power dynamic in language. And so we often, I think people often around us surprised that we speak English to each other because I think we can maybe communicate a little bit even in Hebrew. But there is um, these decisions have reason behind them. And I think it's, we sometimes will speak in Hebrew, and I speak with a lot of Israeli friends in Hebrew, but when we're doing our work, there is something powerful about sometimes speaking English with each other. I think there's a lot of people who need to obviously learn Arabic in Israel. Language and talking about language, somebody's asking about, do you talk about apartheid? Do you talk about genocide? We talk about everything in our meetings. And even in the book, we talk a lot about even terminologies. How do we use terminologies? How do we not? And again, I think one thing we are very comfortable with, not everyone is. Each of us can use whatever terminologies he feel comfortable with, and the other will not judge. So if I use sometimes I talk about genocide, I talk about apartheid sometimes, and I don't need to worry if Maoz agree with me or not, because regardless if he agrees or not, he will respect that this is my choice, and vice versa. So I think that's a very different than a lot of times how these conversations goes. We're not gonna always agree, but we will always respect each other in using the terminologies we feel describes reality, and the same regarding peace building. We don't always necessarily have to give the exact same answer, and that is fine. And asking people, I think one of the biggest mistakes happen, especially in the pro-Palestinian movement, asking people to already agree with us before we even have a conversation, it doesn't make sense.
yeah, Aziz, I think that that's a lesson that a lot of the certainly the American Jewish, but also a lot of the internationals that I think are with us, Canadians and others, could learn that you don't need to agree on the terminology. You can still have a conversation.
Mhm.
In fact, it's very difficult. Like where do you go in a conversation where you already all agree from the outset, right? Politics isn't done that way, and neither is peace building, right? That we have to understand that we disagree and that that's okay, and that's part of what this is all about. So I want to thank you for that insight, but also for all of your insights. I want to wrap us up because we're coming up on the hour, but this has been so wonderful to hear from you, especially today, both with all of the anxiety and trepidation, Aziz, that you mentioned, and all of the joy and tears, Maoz, that you mentioned. And it's just so important to remember what you guys said earlier, that, the world is ours to shape. Conflict comes to an end. This is not inevitable, right? That futures, we will build those futures, and people like you guys and like all of us, actually. It's not, just the select few. It takes all of us. Um, will work towards that every single day, and that is the mission essentially of the New Israel Fund. And that we are seeking together the humanity, the equality, the respect, the dignity, and the courage to imagine peace beyond the now. So we are very proud to stand with you both. And we're very, very grateful to our global community here that also stands with you. And I will also say to everybody here, if you want to learn more about Maoz and Aziz, it's easy to do. Um, look at the email. You can click on the link to their book. But also, if you want to learn more about NIF and support the grantees that do all of this work every day. You can also visit nif.org, sign up for our updates, donate to our humanitarian funds to Gaza or to the democracy work that we do in Israel, or join us at a future briefing like this one. And thank you all. Thank you both, and thank you all for being here today on this.
Elisheva, I just want to share my last words, and then I must run for
Share your last words.
I
1
want to
minute,
share.
everyone. And I want to say thank you specifically to you, Maoz, because tonight is a holiday in Israel, and you decided to take this hour and to share it with us. And so thank you.
That wasn't it. I didn't decide it. It skipped my calendar. If I had known it, we've changed the time, but it's okay. I'm very, very happy to be here with everyone. Very happy. So I want to share with the last words from a blessing I received from my mom. She was a mandala painter, and she painted this and gave me about it. It was 2016, and her words here are saying in Hebrew. I will do the translation. All our dreams can be fulfilled if we have the courage to chase them. So I take those words every day with me. They're always with me.
Beautiful. Aziz, do you have one last word for us, or do we want to end on that?
I think we can end with that. That's beautiful to end with.
Thank you both. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.